Welcome, 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 everybody. We are so glad you're here, and I'm so excited to be hosting Release Notes for the very first time. Release Notes is a place for our community to learn all that's happening at Figma and catch up on our latest updates. This time, we're going to be diving deep on how AI agents, Figma, and the Figma MCP server can elevate design and development workflows. So, who am I anyway? My name is Amy Lima, and I'm a designer advocate here at Figma, and I'll be your host for today. Let's kick things off with our first segment. We've got 3 live demos lined up in what we're calling the Demo Lab. Our main segment, Demo Lab, is up first, where we'll discuss how leading product teams use AI agents in Figma. And to do this, I'll invite my dear friend and colleague to join me, Anthony.
Hey, Amy, how you doing?
Hi, friend. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. Hey, everyone. My name's Anthony DiSpezio. I'm also a designer advocate here at Figma.
So why are we talking about this today? Well, lately it feels like we can build anything in code with AI really fast. This feels like a superpower, and it really can be.
Yeah, but for all the excitement of what we can build, are we building the right things? Solving the right user problems, meeting expectations, innovating towards meaningful results? This is the real opportunity and why Figma plays an essential role in the design process.
So today, we'll cover a few recent launches showing how agents can accelerate real workflows starting from both code and the Figma canvas.
Yeah, and many of you may already know this, but in case you're new, I think we should start with a little bit of vocabulary for some of the things we'll be talking about today. So an AI agent is a software system that uses AI to complete tasks, write code, interpret visuals, employ complex systems that can even orchestrate other agents as well. Bit of a simplification, but that's a general idea. Tools like Cursor, Codex, Cloud Code are good examples in the product building space. The second thing to know is MCP, Model Context Protocol. This is how agents talk to other software like Figma.
So what exactly do you mean by talk to?
Yeah, so MCP servers allow agents to get relevant context from other sources to help determine the best decision or next step. Figma's MCP server enables agents to do a number of really cool things. Translate code into Figma designs, actually manipulate and work on designs on the canvas, and translate those designs back into code. So this ability to bridge design and code is what makes agentic coding with Figma so powerful.
God, this is so exciting. Why don't we see what this looks like in practice? We've got 3 workflows to demo today. First, we'll show you how to import and elevate your vibe-coded designs from code to canvas. Second, we'll connect design systems in code to design libraries in Figma. And third, we'll use an agent to help explore new directions for designs that already exist on the canvas. You down to jam on these together?
Let's do it.
Let's go. But one quick note before we do. Have you ever seen a live cooking show where the host puts a dish in the oven and then immediately pulls out something perfectly cooked?
Yes.
Cool. So we're going to do a little bit of that today. Instead of making you wait for the agent's output for every example, we'll show some pre-baked artifacts with all the steps on how we get there. But everything you see will be real agent outputs, imperfections and all. So let's dive in.
Great. All right, first thing we're going to show you is how to install the MCP server. So to start, you're going to open up your coding agent. I'm using Cursor today, but the process is very similar for other popular agents as well. In Cursor settings, you're going to go to the Plugins tab, and you can either browse for the Figma plugin. Here we see it under the suggested option, so I'm going to click on the Figma plugin and say Add to Cursor. This will install the MCP server, as well as a number of skills, which we'll get to. We're not done yet, though. We want to make sure that we actually authenticate the MCP server. So I'm going to come back to a different tab, Tools and MCP, and we can see that we have the server, but it needs authentication. So I can click Connect. This will open up a browser window where you can log into your Figma account. In this case, I'm already logged in, and you just click Agree and Allow Access, and this will grant your AI agent access to the Figma MCP server.
So you just made that look so nice and easy, which generally it is, but that last step, authentication, is really easy to get stuck on. Again, what you want is for the agent to open a browser tab, asking you to allow it to access Figma. If you get stuck or if you don't see the browser tab, which often means the agent failed silently, you can check out our Help Center for detailed installation instructions. Once you complete this step, you're good to go.
Yeah. Something to keep in mind is that if you installed the MCP server before March 24th, you need to update it to get all the new features that we're about to show off.
So now that we're all set up, let's get into the first workflow, elevating your vibe-coded designs by bringing them to the canvas. We've talked to a lot of design teams lately experimenting with agents and starting in code.
And we're also seeing a lot of these teams experimenting with something that we've been hearing called prototyping playgrounds, right? A prototyping playground is a sandbox that has your real code, your real screens from your actual production products, but in a low stakes space where the teams can build, they can break things or tweak prototypes without affecting production code or the actual final designs. If you don't have access to any kind of prototyping playground, this is not a big deal at all. This demo applies to anyone who's doing any kind of prototyping in code.
So for our first example, let's say we work on a consumer fintech app that helps people track their savings and set goals. A PM on our team explored a new onboarding flow within our AI agent, which doesn't yet exist in our production app or in our Figma files.
Yeah.
And it looks like this.
And this is amazing, right? I mean, obviously, it's fantastic that other teams are able to get involved and use tools like AI prompting to actually get some pretty nice artifacts for us to actually look at. But I will say this looks a bit off. The design definitely looks AI generated. I think there's a little bit more design thinking that needs to be done here.
I definitely agree. What we're looking at is an onboarding flow, which is technically what our agent was asked to build, but this doesn't feel like a done job. But since it's difficult to assess fully without seeing all the screens side by side, I would love to get this flow into Figma to see if we can improve it. I built a custom skill to help us do this, but before we see it in action, Anthony, can you tell our audience a little more about what a skill even is?
Yeah, absolutely. So skills are just instructions that agents can use or reuse to help you accomplish a task. Skills are stored as files, which essentially just text. Any repeatable defined task that you'd otherwise be re-prompting your agent to execute is a really good candidate for a skill. All of the skills that we're featuring today, including Amy's that we're about to demo, are available on Figma's community skills page. Just copy the GitHub link into your agent and ask it to download and install.
So now let's see this custom skill in action. Again, it takes a prototype built directly in code and brings each unique screen onto the Figma canvas as a design frame. This feature is actually coming soon to Figma Make as well, which is so exciting, so stay tuned for that. Now, agents will generally use the right skills based on your prompt, but you can also call these skills directly by typing / and the skill name. And if we go to the prompt, I wrote my agent, you can see that I did just that. I typed / prototype to Figma, which is the name of my skill, and I asked it by cursor, my agent, to use it on the prototype running in localhost that we just saw. And here is the output. Now we see each step of this prototype laid out on the canvas. Not only that, we see annotations here detailing the interaction implementation details that we saw in the live localhost, and also a little flow overview, which I think is neat, describing what we see here.
Yeah, I want to stop and go into a little bit more detail on this, if you can follow me. I think some of the things, just to call out real quickly, right, that the MCP server was able to bring all of those screens in so quickly. Your skill on top of that is adding additional context like the annotations, which these annotations in particular are actually about interaction details. So this is a layer of context on top of just how things are actually looking visually. Summary is fantastic. This helps people get oriented really quickly into the flow that they're looking at here, right? So the combination of the actual power of Figma MCP server and having your own skill that is optimized for how you actually want this thing to look and how it actually bring in those frames. This is really, really powerful.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah.
And actually, I did create this after speaking directly to users, friends, peers in the industry who were creating live code prototypes, but were really struggling to get feedback on those artifacts because it is pretty tough to do in a live production environment, right? So this was built directly with that pain point in mind. So I hope it's helpful for them, but it's already really helpful for us because seeing all of these screens laid out here, love that. But I can immediately see that this prototype is indeed a little overwhelming. And I'm thinking that prompting this to perfection would just be really painful. So we have it in Figma. What do you say we just iterate on it live to improve it?
Let's get on the canvas, do some design work. I love this. Okay, so I have some initial thoughts here. We have our first page of our onboarding flow that we're looking at here. Do we really need an eyebrow header saying that this is the onboarding flow? We kind of know we're in the onboarding flow. Let's get rid of that.
Yeah, I think in the same vein, this steps UI feels a little redundant here. We already have a progress bar.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'm gonna nix that.
Probably, I think the biggest piece of feedback, which you kind of already mentioned, is like we have all of these UI elements here. It feels really busy. When I think of an onboarding flow, I'm not thinking of like actually showing every single piece of real UI. Can we have a more streamlined approach to this, something that feels a bit more impressive?
I definitely agree. And actually, we have some really beautiful design system assets that I think can do just that. Like, what if we communicated everything we needed in a composition like this?
This is great. We actually have some other illustrations too as well. I might actually bring in, just to try another example. I know we have some of those larger like hero illustrations that we've used in other places. So let's bring that in. I did like your title though, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. I'm gonna detach from this component right now.
Crimes.
But you know, you're iterating, you're exploring. This is the opportunity to do this kind of more flexible work, I would say.
While you're doing that, this header at the top here kind of feels redundant if we have this beautiful header that you're crafting now. So I'm gonna remove that, add some auto layout to live demoing. Oh, this is what happens. Let's wait till the end to do that. I'm gonna move this progress bar here to the bottom because that header is looking pretty big up there.
Love it. Let me go ahead and update some of the text. I know we have some new copy from our copywriting team, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put that in. Save, unlock, repeat. Great.
Auto layout is auto layouting. We love when that happens. And
yeah, this is looking good. I might swap out those buttons at the bottom. They look kind of like our standard buttons, but I know we have some nice big display buttons with some better colors. Let's go ahead and drop that in there too as well.
So
what do you think?
I'm obviously biased, but I think this is feeling like a much stronger visual direction for an onboarding flow, right? So our vibe-coded prototype was a solid starting point to validate an idea like pretty quickly, but riffing on the canvas together got us to a much stronger solution, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had some good input from the AI flow that we initially brought in, some good ideas that we wanted to keep and some ways that we wanted to approach that kind of stuff. But the design feels like it's much more in a state that I would feel comfortable sending out for feedback or prompting to our agent and actually updating our code real with our new version of our design that we have here.
Definitely. So let's recap what we just did. We started with a prototype built in code and brought all the screens into Figma as a flow using a custom skill I built and refined it until it cleared our bar for craft. This is a really great example of what's possible with the updated Figma MCP server.
Yeah. And sometimes the canvas is just the easiest path or the fastest path forward, you know, especially when you're co-designing or collaborating within a team as well. We still have that canvas experience to help make those good design decisions.
And working with a team often means working with design systems that allow you to create consistent, cohesive experiences that scale. We see this really clearly in our next demo. For this example, we're working on a museum app called Museum of Speculative Futures. This is the home screen in light mode. And over a recent Maker Week, I got a little curious and built out a dark mode version directly in code using AI. And here it is running locally.
Okay, that's actually a pretty solid starting point.
It's definitely a solid starting point. The problem is it only exists in code right now. So I genuinely have no idea how it holds up across the rest of the app.
So once again, what we could do is let's get our design and our variables and everything that we need from the code onto the canvas where we can actually evaluate it.
Totally. So for that, we're going to use these skills. Figma Generate Design and Figma Generate Library, both of which are foundational skills that come pre-installed with Figma's MCP server. So no manual install needed. So this is the exact prompt we ran, and these are the skills that we called. And this is the output. You can see that we have both light and dark mode here on the canvas, just like it was in localhost. What I love is that the agent also brought in this style sheet that has all of our tokens, our components as reflected in dark mode. And if we open up the variables panel, we should see, there she is, a dark mode alongside our pre-existing light mode, all on the canvas.
So cool. This is awesome. And so what we're seeing here is that combination of the tools from the MCP server, but also the skills that are utilizing those to help build out other things like this style guide sheet that we have here, or any other thing else that we would want to help evaluate any changes that we've made and see it at that higher level as well.
Exactly.
I can already see a couple things I think we should improve that I might not have caught on just the code side of things, but looking at it now, I'm gonna go ahead and in our dark mode, we have this sort of bright yellow color that we're using on these titles. I like the contrast in the light mode. It's a bit intense of a contrast, I think, on the dark mode. Maybe we can find another color from our design system that we could be using here. Also, the contrast on these dates feels a little low. I'm worried about our accessibility, meeting our accessibility standards here, and something that's really an important standard for our team. I think we want to go ahead and update some of these things. So strong foundation, but I'm noticing smaller things because I'm on the canvas that I'm able to see and just sort of understand how those relationships are playing together, that I think we could go ahead and update.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. Those are all really great points. Why don't we just open up the variables panel then that we have here and see what we can do? So you called out our yellow highlight color, which is our color brand primary.
Yeah.
We see it's this brand yellow on dark mode. Why don't we change it to, we have some really beautiful brand blues.
Oh yeah, that blue, yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving how that looks so far. And we can also switch out this tertiary text color and see if that's a little more accessible. Zooming out, what do we think? I see that the style sheet also updated, which is so cool.
This is great. Yeah, I mean, this feels a little bit more in line with the close relationship between the tones and the colors that we wanted for our light and dark modes here.
So you might be thinking, why couldn't I just prompt these changes, right? Which is a super valid question. And yeah, AI could certainly help here, but there are certain nuances of opinion, optical balance, and just other judgment calls, especially when accessibility is concerned, that really requires a designer's input and responsibility, I think.
Yeah.
For the sake of time, we're only going to make a couple of changes here, but you can imagine that a design team will put much more time and thought into building a well thought out dark mode that feels really intentional, right? So now that we have a dark mode that fits in well with our app and meets our accessibility bar, we can actually go back and update the prototype now and push our refined variables back into the code base.
Right. I mean, having that full round trip right there is fantastic.
It's so exciting. So that's how we can keep code and design in sync, which is so powerful. The agent handled all the tedious mapping with the designs and variables onto the canvas for us, which made the design decisions that we iterated on that much easier and faster.
Yeah.
Are we ready for the last demo?
Let's do it.
So now where do we go next?
We're gonna work on our workflow for a very familiar starting point, I think, for a lot of people. Canvas, right? Many teams, in fact, most teams are using Figma as their source of truth and as their jumping off point for their design work.
So here we have a customer revenue dashboard that lives in Figma. Right now, renewal health is just a label at the end of each row, which is really easy to miss. And actually our user feedback.
I don't even know if I can see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna get right in here for y'all. That's how hidden it is right now. And this is actually user feedback and user research that we're getting and hearing directly that we really just need to make this more prominent. Now, the hardest part of iterating on a production screen like this, at least in my experience as a product designer, is usually that first move, right? An agent can actually give us a really nice starting off point using our actual components. So instead of starting from a blank frame or duplicating and hacking things apart, we can get rough directions that we can react to and refine right away.
Yeah, and as much as I love getting down into tables and rows and very complex auto layouts. If I have, a few ideas, which, there's tons of different valid approaches that we could be using here, right? We could be adding color coding. We could be grouping the rows by status. We could be introducing some new visual hierarchy, something to make that health status really clear. Could probably sketch 5 different directions in my head right now. Sitting down to do some of that real manual work inside of Figma is going to take a bit of time as to how I'm going to actually make that work. And this is where AI prompting is so helpful, because we can get those ideas out quickly.
Exactly. So we are going to use the Figma use skill to do exactly this. So this is another foundational skill that comes pre-installed with our Figma MCP server. So you see here the prompt that we used. I also pasted in some relevant insights from our research and asked the agent to explore a way to solve this user problem of ours of making renewal health more prominent. And now we can see this agent output on the canvas. It used our production components, which is great. And I can already start reacting to this.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, this is easier for me to understand. I also just want to say, I really love that we're using a very practical layout and design here. I know not everything is going to be flashy home screens and these types of things, and you do have a lot of these, more advanced admin views, table views, and things like that, where this kind of work can get a lot of improvement on speed and efficiency in getting to these things. And so here, reminding ourselves that the agent was not actually trying to pull anything from code right now. It's simply going in, looking at our designs, and generating new outputs based on some of our inputs. And this is much easier for me to understand, right? The grouped rows with the status banners right here makes this really easy for me to understand. I can immediately see what are my at-risk accounts, right? And in the original, having to scan through that whole column was a lot of work. And so this just feels like a better approach. And it's now an artifact that I can quickly share with others and even work on a bit.
Exactly. So this is obviously, all that being said, +1 to everything. This is very obviously not a finished design, right? But again, it's still a good starting point that shifts how we're thinking about the layout. From here, I can get in and start refining it a bit. So is there anything that stands out to you on how we can do that?
And again, I love the way that these sections have been very clearly called out now, that we actually have needs action, at risk, the red, yellow, and green. This doesn't feel like our brand, though. I feel like we need to fix those headers because they feel a bit brutal in their design and their layout, a bit intense, and we tend to have a little bit softer palette that we're using. And I know we have a header component for that.
We do, yeah. You just said header, and that made me think of this header component that we have here. I wonder if I can rework this. I see we have some component props. What if we add a chevron, remove the eyebrow, and you mentioned softer colors. I know we have that in our brand. Maybe?
Yeah.
It looks something like this. Needs actions. I'll call
great
out.
Exploration. I love it.
Yeah, just really quick to get an idea. From here, I can just see what it looks like in context. And this is looking like a pretty decent direction. What do you think?
I think it's good. Obviously we're doing a very simple example here for folks to just sort of get a sense of how you might polish a design by hand when you know what elements you have and how you want to actually take the ideas that were prompted originally and push them to the level of design that you're going to want for sharing with others and stakeholders and things like that.
Totally. Yeah. And for the sake of movie magic, we can skip over all the fun parts, which was the iterations that we did off camera to reach this final design. And this is really exciting. What I loved about this workflow is that we were ultimately the ones to solve this problem, right? The agent, again, got us past the blank stage that helped us get to a better solution together on the canvas faster than we could have before these recent MCP releases. So the agent almost acted like a bit of a thought partner. Right. I like to think of it in this example.
Yeah, and I think across all three of those demos, that's the pattern that was really loud and clear, right? Which is whether you're starting in code or you're starting on the canvas, the agent handles a lot of that scaffolding, a lot of that getting to that point where your design decisions can really come into play, and we can spend our time on the stuff that actually requires a designer's eye.
Exactly. Before we wrap up Demo Lab, I want to share a powerful example of how the Figma community is doing just this using these tools. Ian Guizard, a designer from Uber, created a Figma MCP skill to help create screen reader specifications. Let's take a quick look.
Screen reader specs are slow and painful to write. There are hundreds of properties and they all vary per platform per focus stop. So I'm going to use the Figma MCP to fully automate it. First, I'm going to grab the component link. Then I'm going to head over to cursor, trigger a skill called create voice, and paste the link to the component. Also, I'm grabbing any context that I might have for the components that's not invisible by an agent, and I'm going to read the skill. Now, once this is done, what you have is a full screen reader spec. What would normally take weeks, now it's done in minutes.
That was really great to see. I mean, this kind of work is incredibly important. It can also be a bit repetitive, and it's, that importance is why we do this stuff, but that can mean that it's pretty time consuming. So it's awesome to see the community using AI to make that work more efficient. We really are only just scratching the surface of what's actually possible with Figma and agents. There's so much more that we could be demoing, and also so much more to come.
So now that we've showed you how to take your vibe-coded prototypes further in Figma, how to connect design systems and code, and how to ship the best idea fast, here's what we really want people to take away from this conversation. We showed 3 workflows today, but they all share one idea. Agents and the canvas work together. The agent is fast. It can generate screens, extract tokens, and rough out a direction in minutes. And the exciting, or a little uncomfortable truth is, agents are going to keep getting faster. But speed without intention is just noise.
Yeah, those judgment calls, knowing what's actually going to work for people, why one direction would be better than another, and having the taste to actually get those ideas there, that's still on us.
And with that, let's get to some updates. Welcome to the Figma update. We've had a lot of launches recently, and we're so excited to spotlight just a few of them. Let's get started.
Okay, so we'll start with a look under the hood, right? We've been shipping performance improvements across the platform to make Figma workflows snappier. Vector editing is up to 10 times faster, which makes editing illustrations feel instant. Figma Make frame rates are 4 times faster as well, which makes prototyping feel a lot more real. We've also reduced the rate of memory warnings by 92%, which keeps larger files more stable.
Next, we have a handful of improvements to Figma Draw. First, Draw now supports gradients on brushes and works with auto layout. You can command-click any stroke to sample its brush, color, and width, which makes it really easy to match styles across complex illustrations. And if you're adding lettering to your illustrations, Text on Path now has a dedicated tool.
So excited about that. Video playback controls are now on the canvas in Figma Design. So no more double clicking into the little video window, needing to scrub back and forth, looking at the thumbnail and the little flyout. You can now drop a video, hit play directly on the canvas without needing to leave the file.
This is one of the updates I'm most excited about. The Eyedropper got a really fun update for macOS desktop users. Before, getting a color into Figma required taking a screenshot and dragging it in. Now, you can select the Eyedropper and sample colors anywhere on your screen, including your cluttered desktop.
It's not cluttered, it's never cluttered. Switching over to Make a little bit, you can now teach Figma Make to use your design systems with Make Kits. So Make Kits create reusable packages with your design system's code and combine them with guidelines so that your prototypes look and feel like your products. You can also attach PDFs, brand rules, screenshots, and more to add realism and context with fewer prompts.
Also in Make, voice to text is now available. Sometimes you know exactly what you want and typing just slows you down. You can click the mic icon, speak your prompt, and hit submit. Make cleans up filler words and adds punctuation automatically, so you can focus on building instead of typing.
And we've updated the MCP server with some powerful tools for FigJam. The new skills let coding agents read and write directly to a FigJam board. So you can also generate architecture diagrams and ERDs that support database relationships. I know Eng is going to be really happy about this one.
AI image tools are also now in FigJam, Figma Buzz, and Figma Slides. You can expand images, fill a layout, erase and isolate objects, and crop to get the framing just right. Vectorize is in Slides and Buzz too, so you can turn any image into an editable vector without leaving your file.
Yes.
FigJam is also picking up remove background, boost resolution, make image, and edit image, so your team can generate better visuals right from the board. The team is shipping.
Speaking of visuals, you have more ways to edit references, to edit and add references using Figma AI to generate or edit images. So select an object on your canvas, copy paste, or upload images to the prompt box to guide your outputs. This feature is available in Figma Design, Draw, Buzz, Slides, FigJam, everywhere.
And if you want even more AI, let's talk Figma Weave. This is so exciting. Weave lets you build creative AI workflows on a visual canvas. Need to turn a product photo into a lifestyle video for a campaign? You can build that workflow once and run it at scale in Weave. We also launched Timeline for Weave, so you can record clips, trim, and adjust timing in your video assets. And that's all she wrote. Again, my name is Amy Lima. I want to give a huge shout out to my colleague Anthony and all the folks who made this episode of Release Notes happen.
Yeah, right back at you. We have loved recapping our recent launches and cannot wait to share more product updates soon.
Very soon. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.